Matthew 22 verses 1 to 14. Here is talking about the parable of the wedding banquet. And Jesus was continuously talking about the question what Pharisees asked to him, that what authority you are doing. Then Jesus was asking a question back to the Pharisees, that what do you think about John the Baptist, the baptism of John the Baptist. Then they were just they couldn't be able to answer it. Then Jesus said, "Oh, I can't answer." So then he looked on the crowd and he explained that one. It is from the heaven. It is righteous, and you have to follow that one. And he's keep on saying and emphasizing that point in very properly, and also give the comments or the give some idea about the kingdom of heaven. And these parables of wedding also talking about the kingdom of heaven. Verse 1 is talking, Jesus spoke to them again in the parable, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the feast to tell them to come, but they refused to come. So here, a king or a father prepare a feast for the dedicated people, then call them for come for the wedding, but they rejected. So here we can see the three different kind of rejection, including this coming passages. So that's the thing we would like to discuss. The first invitation is refused, that Jesus answered, spoke to them again by the parable. So let us start with the first invitation is refused. So here we can say Jesus answered and spoke to them again by the parables. That means Jesus was answering about the authority and what authority he is doing. And he's keep on saying, Jesus continued to explain to the religious leader and to the listening crowd the danger of rejecting him. And a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. That was his message. And a wedding was the most significant social event of a person's life. If you are thinking about in a prince's life, the wedding of a prince would be a spectacular event, and an invitation would normally be praised. They were not willing to come. That's the first rejection. And it seems strange that those invited refused an invitation to the royal wedding. They illustrate the principle that there is no logical reason God gives and refuse. The second invitation, or the second invitation is refused, that the king reacts on it. That start from 4 to 7. 4. Then he sent some more servants and said, tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle have been cooked and everything is ready. Come to wedding. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servant, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. And that was so important, because God invited us to not to prepare our own food, but there is everything is prepared through the Jesus Christ, and is that died in the Calvary and resurrected. Through that process, everything is prepared. Tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared. The king persisted in making the invitation as attractive as possible. He really wanted those invited to come. So all these things are ready. We don't need to cook that one. But they made light of it and went their ways. The reaction of those invited made no sense, but it does give an accurate description of the reaction of many to gospel. Many made light of it. Others go back to their business. So clearly a rebellion activity. When we are evangelize or share the gospel, people start reject. He was furious and he sent out his armies to destroy those murderers. The king rightfully brought the judgment upon the offenders. Not only did they reject his invitation, but they also murdered his messengers. And that's the context of the second rejection. And the third invitation, we can see from verse 8 to 10. Then he said to his servant, the wedding is ready, wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corner and um, invite anyone you find. So the servant went into the street and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as good, and the wedding hall was filled with the guests. That's the one thing. Even the Jewish and the deserved people and all the people in this world, whoever deserve for it and they rejected. That's why it's getting a bad person like me. Even though he chose a lot of good people in this world, but he choose a bad person or like me also. That's such a grace he shone upon me. As many as you find, invite to the wedding. The king was determined that he would not have an empty hall, so an invitation was given to all who would hear. Those servants went out to the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both good and bad. When the first and second invitation were so dramatically rejected, the third invitation was made more broadly. All were invited, whether good or bad, and I'm the person of bad person. Jesus invited me. And verse 11 to 14 is talking about the man without wedding garment. But when the king came in to see the guest, he noticed a man there was who was not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, how did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend? The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness. There will be a weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. So when the king came to see the guest, the king carefully examined his guest. It's not like just an overall view. He examined his guest to see if there are wore garments that were customarily offered to those attend a wedding feast. A man where there were who did not wear, who have the wedding garment. The man without a robe was conspicuously by his difference. He came in appropriate dress, and king noticed that one. Some people will say that one, okay, I'm just like a going. I'm not going in the way of many are going, or the godly people are going. I'm a standalone person. I'm doing my own way and my own dressing style and my own way and my own thing. Then God, one day we have to stand in the judgment seat and God will ask. Then he's become speechless. That will happen. So it's better to always stay with the God and stay with the godly people. People will always say that church is dangerous place, but my dear friend, I can easily say that one church is the safest place. If you go to this world, that's the dangerous place than the church. Cast him into outer darkness. The man who did he pleased at the wedding feast instead of honoring the king and confirming his expectations, suffering terribly fate. And for many are called, but few are chosen. The statement of Jesus in this context touches of the great working together of the choices of man and choosing of God. Why did they not come to the wedding party? Because they refused the invitation. Why did they not come to the wedding party? Because they were called but not chosen. Amen.